While this is in some ways a practice that has some intellectual aspects, it is first and foremost a spiritual process that I'm inviting you to. So in that spirit, we're going to start by coming fully into the space together. Let us take a moment to arrive, to notice the ground supporting us, to notice the breath moving through us, to notice the light that allows us to see one another, and that other kind of light that is each other. We come together here in spiritual practice. You are welcome here. You are wanted here. And most importantly, and often overlooked, you're needed here. May this be a space of clarity, courage, and care. Amen. Keith, will you move the mouse to the slideshow, brother? It's all good, man. There we go. Thank you. So, before we begin, learning and practice never happen in a vacuum. They happen in rooms that are already alive with experience. So I'm inviting you to turn to someone near you and share what feels most emergent for you right now. From this morning, from your life as you walked in today, what are you carrying with you that either is telling you where your center is today, or that's something you need to set aside so that you can really be present here? So I'm going to invite you in groups of 2 or 3 to turn to one another and just share quickly where you're at this morning. We're going to take about 2 minutes for this. I think I want to say yes to your offer, but I haven't had a chance to actually look at anything. And I've been thinking about you. How are you doing? I know we don't have time for a huge check-in right this, but okay. Yeah. That's okay. Cool. Yeah. 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 Oh. So, yeah. So I guess let me say specifically what I mean by emergent. So emergent is used in a lot of literature to describe something that arises sort of unexpectedly. We wonder whether consciousness is emergent from actual neurons firing, right? So, but what I mean here is that if you let your mind quiet a little bit, you notice your breath, you notice your body, there's usually a thing or two that's itching somewhere, right? Whether it's a feeling or an intuition or something that's going on in your body. Maybe it's a thought that you can't get off a replay. So what I'm asking when I ask what's emergent is like, when you get as quiet as you can get in, say, a 30-second breathing exercise, what's still happening for you in your gut, in your heart, in your mind, in your body? And then give that thing some attention so that we can clear the space to do the work together. Yeah. You probably rocked it. You probably knew what you were doing. You were just like, Eric, why are you using this esoteric word when there are more plain-spoken words that would work? All right. All right. I want y'all to look at the screen. No, really, I do. As you see these words, notice what happens inside you. Not just what you think, what you feel, where you experience it in your body. Today, for the purposes of our conversation, I am not going to be using them as political identities. I'm going to use them as human tendencies. You don't have to disown these identities. Just hold them a little more lightly for a moment, and let's see what they might show us, because every one of us carries both. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt observes that some parts of us are drawn toward stability and reliability, while other parts are drawn toward novelty and change. Notice, where in your life do you protect what works? And where do you push for what could be? For me, this shows up glaringly when I travel. So, we do a lot of family road trips. And here's what you need to know. I will spend hours researching restaurants and finding that one little local restaurant, and I will take the risk of getting a bad meal to go on my travel arc and find little homespun unique restaurants in different cities as I travel. We literally time the stints so that we land in interesting places at like lunch and dinner time. So I am liberal about food on my road trips. I'm willing to risk a bad meal to find something new and interesting that I've never eaten before and can't get anywhere else. Now let's talk about road trip coffee. I am done drinking $5 a cup bitter urine water. I do not trust reviews. I have tried. No amount of research counterbalances it. When I am on a road trip, I stop at Starbucks and I get the dark roast coffee that I like because it's consistent and I know what I'm going to get, and I don't even care about the global hegemony. But I know what I want out of my coffee, and I know where I can get it, and I don't want to risk a bad cup of coffee. Because in my car, what happens is bad cup of coffee equals making good time, stop for coffee, stop again to throw the coffee out, and stop again to get more coffee. That's how it plays out with my spouse and I. So we are luckily in accord on this, right? That could be a different kind of road trip. It's like, well, we're not on the same page about this liberal conservative nonsense when it comes to what we eat and drink. Now, what I want to emphasize with this lighthearted example is that these labels and these tendencies do not map cleanly across any single life. Never met anybody who's liberal about everything or conservative about everything if we understand these words in their social psychological, not their political meanings. So, let's dig a little deeper. I'm going to invite you to turn to your worksheet And I want you to write down some examples of where you are conservative in your life. If you want to do as I did, if it's more comfortable to pick things first that are not so deep, not so challenging, like I'm conservative about my coffee, you can start there. But I left you a few lines because I would like you to also challenge yourself and acknowledge some places where you're conservative about things that matter deeply to you. Because I feel very safe in saying that there are areas where you're not seeking change in your life. You're like, no, this part of my life is good. And I'm going to defend that part of my life. I want it to stay much as it is. Not in like complete resistance to change as we talked about last week, but just, I like this rhythm. If life is a series of overlapping rhythms and patterns, right? Sometimes at a point in our life we get into a pattern and we're like, I like this one. I think I'd like it to stay the way it is. Or similar. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to... You can just brainwrite out lots of words if you want. You can just put yourself a 1 or 2 keyword note for later.
Oh, yes. I second that. Thank you. The creamer, very good. Just, putting a little.
I appreciate the plug. When you're ready, you can go ahead and go to the next reflection prompt, which is to get specific about areas in your life where you're liberal, areas where you push for what could be, areas where you're willing to take risks and you actively experiment. I want you to notice the words I'm using. Actively experiment. Conservative is like, things are good the way they are. I'm not trying to change it up. Liberal is literally, no, this ain't working for me. Or I think there's something better out there. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to take some risks. I'm going to try to change things up on purpose. So I'll give you another example from my life, one that's slightly more serious. My son Simon got in his first car accident when he was in the car by himself this week. It was not his fault, and so he's not beating himself up. And it wasn't bad, just a scratch down the side of the car. Yeah, what's that? Oh yeah, this happened in West. He does a volunteer work in West Campus, and that's full of inexperienced college student drivers, and that's where he got hit by someone else. No, this wasn't during the parade yesterday when he was driving the float. Oh yeah. No, just a scratch down the car. No big deal. Like the police weren't called, nobody was injured, but I realized, and it relates to liberal conservative, although I can't quite put my finger on it. So Simon absolutely is like, not driving a car with a scratch down the side. We got to get that fixed. And I'm all like, no, I'm just like, nope. This car is like 11 years old. This car's 11 years old. It still drives from point A to B point just fine. Like, not only do I not want to spend money getting it fixed, like I don't even want to take time out of my schedule to like go get a quote, even though the father of the other person in the accident is going to pay for it. I'm like, I got to take time out of my schedule to go for a scratch. Like, so what Simon and I have discussed is that he's liberal about cars, right? Like he's like, yeah, let's put some new wheels on it and let's change this thing and change that thing. And, wouldn't it be cool if we put it, and I'm all like, nope, still works to get me from point A to point B. Done. So, it's an area, when we're liberal and someone else is conservative about a certain thing, it's an area where like friction in family arises, right? Like, nope, I think it's good enough just the way it is, and you might think so, but not for me. It's not good enough for me. I want to do something different. I want to try something different. I want to change something. All right, here's the next challenge for this morning. There are two important things I want to highlight before you share with one another. I want you to remain aware of what's going on in your body, in your gut, with your feelings, in your heart, and with your head and your thinking. I'm not asking you to do anything extra. Just stay aware of your whole self as you participate in the sharing. And I do think it's important that you say the sentence aloud to your neighbor as a true thing about you. Not a shameful thing, not a disingenuous thing, a true thing that will help that neighbor see and understand you better. So my challenge to you is to look at both your conservative list and your liberal list. Find the one that makes you most uncomfortable and say it out loud to your neighbor as a declarative sentence about you and how you're showing up honestly and earnestly today. So we're going to take 5 minutes or so for this. You can just pick one then, Jim. How you doing, buddy? Are you good? Making a mess. Okay.
I'm not either. We're gonna start. Oh, technology, yeah, okay, technology. Yeah, I mean, for purpose already.
And then it'll say print it out.
Print it out. So, yeah, I'm conservative, and I don't read Kindle, I read books.
When a word becomes who I am, when a word becomes who I am, I stop being able to examine it. When a word becomes a tool, I regain the freedom to choose. Maturity is not the absence of identity. It is the ability to hold identity lightly enough that it doesn't get in your way. How do we decide whether change feels wise or dangerous? When the current reality feels like it supports us, we tend to prefer stability. When the current reality feels like it supports us, we tend to prefer stability. When the current reality feels like it does not support us, we tend to prefer change. Most of us are conservative about some things and liberal about others without noticing, often without noticing. But every effective system requires both stabilizing forces and change-driving forces. Cars need a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So do organizations and societies and churches. Wisdom is not choosing one over the other. Wisdom is knowing when each is needed so you can steer. Wisdom is knowing when your conservative tendencies are needed to slow the thing down so you can make the corner. Or when it's time to accelerate and move away from an old situation into a new one. Conservative is the brake pedal tendency. Liberal is the gas pedal tendency. Conservative is the slow down, we're going too fast, things are changing too quickly, I don't feel safe anymore, slow it down. Now, I'm not talking about the party. I need you to hear me. I'm not talking about the people who take on conservative as a political identity, which has so many meanings and so many even meanings that people who carry the label don't agree about. And the same with liberals. It means so much stuff. I'm trying to clear away all the stuff so y'all can see that what's at the root of the thing is not who's good and who's evil, or whether or not wearing one badge or the other is superior. What I'm trying to get you to see is that all of it, all of the cruff around it, was created in reaction to what those words really mean about being human. They have real meanings about what it's like to move through this life and experience change and how you react to change and whether that change is aligned with your values, whether that change privileges or marginalizes the various social statuses and roles that you hold. But the tendency itself is not evil. And that is enough space maybe to start squeezing a little bit of compassion into the way that these terms get used typically even as political terms. Now that we've walked through an example of what happens or what can happen when we reclaim an identity and approach it as a tool, I want to invite you to turn your worksheet over, and we're going to take time to reflect on other identities that we hold. What identities do you hold that matter deeply to you? Now, I want to say this, and I want to say it clearly. Some of these identities have been sites of real harm in your life. I'm not asking you to minimize that harm or to pretend that identity doesn't matter. I'm inviting you to notice the difference between an identity that you hold and an identity that holds you. Both can be true at the same time. As I read through the list, which is also on your worksheet, I want you to put a mark next to ones that resonate strongly with you. For each of the categories, I'm going to give you some examples of words that might be the word that is your nucleus in that. For example, under parent caregiver, you might identify strongly as a mother or a father or a grandfather. So, partner, spouse, husband, wife, professional role, teacher, engineer, fan or enthusiast of a sports team or a hobby or a music genre, a political party or ideology, a nationality. How important is it to you to be an American? Regional identity, Texan, second generation Texan, third generation Texan, ninth generation Texan. I hear that language bandied about a lot. I don't think you would use that language if it wasn't important to you that you're a seventh generation Texan or whatever it happens to be. Or maybe you're a Southerner or a transplant or a New Englander. Maybe you identify strongly with your generation, be it Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. Maybe your racial or ethnic identity is important to you. Perhaps your gender or your sexual orientation are important to you. Perhaps your religious or spiritual identity, whether it's UU, Christian, atheist, agnostic, secular humanist, spiritual humanist, mystical humanist. Maybe that identity is something that means a lot to you. Maybe your class or economic background, either the one you hold now as a grown-up or the one that you had as a child, were important to you. Maybe you still think of yourself as the kid from the wrong side of the tracks. Or maybe it's important that you see yourself as middle class or well off. If you have a disability or a neurodivergence as part of your life experience, maybe that identity has become important to you. Or maybe there's a family role, oldest child, caretaker, black sheep, brother, sister, sibling, that is important to you and who you are. Maybe you're a survivor of trauma or illness, addiction or loss, and that has become an important part of your identity. I'm going to invite you now into a quiet reflection. This is just you and your paper. We're not going to share this one. But as you scan that list, what stands out to you, and I want you to sit with this question for a minute. Whatever identity it was that stood out to you, what would change if you held that identity less tightly? What would change for you if you held that identity less tightly? So when I was growing up, my step family were mostly graduates of the University of Florida. And my father's side of the family were mostly graduates of Florida State University, which is its committed rival. Now, these were identities that both of these family groups took very seriously. And for years, I would show up to my father's side of the family, and just every third word was about how the Seminoles are superior to the Gators. And I mean, it was just constant. Touche, Lou. But after a while, I got to a point where I was like, is this all we have to talk about? Like, is this really what's important to y'all? And I didn't find that it made either of them happy. I didn't find that it made them happy when you're in a conference like the SEC, like you only get to win the big enchilada once in a blue moon. So, yes, that 1 year out of 17, they were ecstatic. And the other 16, it was just an excuse to complain about this running back or that head coach or who had done what and why the program wasn't as good as it should be. And I just thought to myself, do these people not understand math? You've got a dozen highly competitive top-tier teams all crammed together in one conference. That was when I was early in high school. It was like 16 when I got out, and I think it's 27 now or some crazy number. I don't know. It's not even a conference anymore. But I was like, if you're winning more often than once every dozen years, you're doing good. Like, you're beating the spread. But they wanted to win every year, but maybe every other, every third. The idea that a student in the program would get through all 4 years and never hold the trophy seemed anathema to them. And this is one of the early experiences that I had that started me suspecting that tribalism in the way we typically practice it might not be all that it's cracked up to be. That it might be serving ego, not serving our collective life. And so some of these exercises and what I'm trying to invite you to do grow out of that. Because, Molly, yes?
I'm sorry. I added another bullet.
Please, share. Age. Should have been on there. Mea culpa. Total miss. Yeah. No. So I think I thought of it as being covered by generation, but you're right. It is its own thing.
No, when I thought generation, I just put childhood 60s.
Yeah. Right. Yes. No, age and ageism, and yeah. It's big. It's big. Had a lot of conversation about what is the appropriate use of the term elder? Mimi. No, that was not, sorry, that segue was badly handled on my part. You had raised your hand. What would you like to say? Oh, thank you, Mimi. So, what I'm trying to get at with this story of childhood football fanaticism is that an identity that holds you limits you. My families were so busy making the jokes about the football that it became the center of all conversation and interaction, and it felt like a deeply missed opportunity once I decided that it wasn't worthy for me of that level of my attention and engagement. Like, if I wasn't going to dive and be all in on the partisanship of it, it wasn't deepening. to be sitting in a room where that's all anybody else wanted to talk about. It was, but I'm not sure that comfort and wisdom are compatible. I think if we're seeking comfort, we're usually avoiding wisdom and vice versa. But I'm willing to hear other perspectives. So, Lou, can I pick on you for a second? So Lou and I, no, that not pick on him in that way. But he said something. We were having lunch recently that said something that similar to what Virgie said. Virgie said, "Well, that's their comfort level. We don't have to negatively judge their comfort level." I think is that what you were leaning toward? Yeah. Okay. Just making sure I'm hearing you. So, and Lou and I were talking, and he said, "Well, you know, if people have their comforting religious illusions that are based on whatever practice they're in, why do you want to take that away from them? Like, if it's their comfort thing or it's their..." So I hear both of you. And I think that this desire for ease and comfort and conflict avoidance is what keeps us from growing together and continuing to grow apart. I don't think anybody in this room would argue that our biggest problem in society is that we're coming back together too quickly or too well. We're fragmenting and fighting over smaller and smaller things. And then the fighting over smaller and smaller things turns into giant risks where we're fighting about really deeply important stuff, but we're fighting about it in such a way we can't even really have a conversation with one another, right? The fracturing is the problem of this historical, cultural, social moment that we're in. The fracturing and the fragmenting and the inability to talk to each other is the bigger problem. Like it's the kernel of the thing. And I think that in order for us to be radically pluralistic, which is what that wheel of values that Unitarian Universalism just adopted asks us to be, if we're really going to be radically pluralistic, that doesn't just mean, Diane, honey, I don't care what you believe, whatever it is, it's fine with me. We're just going to be friends and go on. Now that's a kind of acceptance, right? And it's maybe a necessary early step in the process. But radical pluralism looks like this. Pam, you and I deeply disagree about a great many things. And my commitment is to stay in conversation with you about that so that we can be tools to each other and compatriots to each other in searching for truth together. That's radical pluralism. Not, you do you. It's all fine. Whatever. If that's your lens, that's your lens. Now we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to get into it. We don't have, like, if we're not here to dig deep with each other, we might as well be talking about football.
But there's a time and a place.
Well, sure, I'm not asking.
At a family gathering, you're not going to say, "So how do you feel about this?"
Well, but you're absolutely getting to the heart of what I want to talk about. Like, yes, those normative expectations about how you can and can't behave in a family gathering and what's okay to talk about and not okay, those things are what's gotten us where we are. So I have become liberal about those things. I think we should change them and experiment. I think we should start having serious conversations about religion and politics at the dinner table.
The dinner table is not contained in itself, but let's talk about the connections that we have. Oh my God.
If
My wife and brother-in-law used to every time deliberately bring up stuff and break the harmony. I worked out kind of a big con.
yeah.
Father that he wouldn't bring up stuff that punched my buttons, and I wouldn't bring up stuff that we would have a peaceful and enjoyable and good digestive Thanksgiving dinner. And my right-wing fascist brother-in-law insists I make him something. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't want to be radically pluralistic with him, or he's dead now. To a certain degree.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Probably. So wait, hold on, Jim. I'm gonna pause you. Thank you. Thank you. No, no, not too much. You've said just enough. You've said just enough. Yeah. But Carolyn put her finger on it, and I want everybody to really take it in. She said, "Did he show up wanting to have a conversation, or did he show up wanting to be right?" I'm paraphrasing you. Was it close? Are we in the same spirit? We're still fingers pointing at the same moon. So, yes, if you show up to a conversation with no interest, if I show up to that conversation with Pam, now Pam, what we're going to do here is I'm going to talk at you until you agree that I'm right. That's not radical pluralism. That's just no. Well, yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect example. Pam, I value our relationship, and I want to understand you better. And if in return you can also understand me better, that'd be awesome. Now, any other spirit other than that is going to result in egoic urination contests. Yeah, you can't choose. Yes, you can't choose. You can't choose that stance for other people. But if they do, but you have to be honest. All I'm asking you to do is be honest about you, because here's the truth. Have you really showed up to those conversations not convinced that you were right and wanting to prove it? Okay. I'm going to tell you something, and this might sting a little bit. When you're deeply right, you lose the need to prove it. When you're deeply right, you don't care about proving it. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. When you are deeply right, I can show up curious to somebody, and the energy coming off me is not like, I'm going to school you now. That's not the energy. The energy is not, you're a dumb backward hick, but maybe you'll grow up one day. So this is, I'm not saying it's not a far distant country, but this is the energy that I'm inviting you to, because here's the truth, and we understand this from research about deep canvassing and other things. When you show up to people, even who you deeply disagree with, and your primary intent, deeply held primary intent, is to understand them and listen to them, that's what opens their heart. That's what invites them to open themselves to change. You can't make that choice for them. But that's the only choice you have that is a true and deep human-to-human invitation, not just another version of Florida State is clearly better than Florida, or vice versa. So disidentification, holding your identities more lightly, is an invitation into a space where you can become a catalyst for the kind of positive change that I hear yearning for in all of your voices. So that's what I have to say about that. 1 second, Bill Hornbuckle. Nope, that's it. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, I keep, in all of these examples
Yeah.
that we've been considering,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the word balance. And that it seems to me that intelligent people are given, have a sense that we've talked about this too much. It's time to change the subject. We do that when we eat. We say, I've had too much sweet, I need a little salt.
Yeah.
We do that when we sing music. We, as a choir director, I used to say, we've sung the old songs too much. It's time to venture out to some new ones, and having some sensitivity into the idea of balance, I think is an indication of wisdom or the truth.
Yeah. No, we are.
Some people would say, you're not like me, and
Yeah, well, there's a big difference between we're not alike and we're still siblings, and we're not alike and therefore I'm better than you, or we're not alike and therefore you're worse than me, or we're not alike and therefore we can't be in relationship. Now, I've got some in my own family. There are toxic folks out there who are not interested in being in a healthy relationship with you, right? And so I am not suggesting that like every dinner turn into political debate club. What I'm saying is that if you want to have a real relationship with another human being in your life, whether you agree with them across the spectrum of issues or not, letting your identities be held a little more loosely is a way to open some space for curiosity and relationship building if they are also willing to show up to that. And leadership can look like showing up with open-minded, open-hearted curiosity. Bergen.
In our connections group, I came across a phrase that I'm using more and more. I want to take to a relationship or anything a curiosity rather than a judgment.
Amen. So for those of you streaming,
How did you get this way? A curiosity instead of thinking judgment. That's it.
Yeah. So what Virgie said for those streaming and listening online was showing up to a conversation with curiosity instead of judgment. And what I'm implying in this is that the identity stuff, when it's held too tightly, is part of what turns that instant judgment switch in our being on. Holding those identities tightly makes it about the identity. It's a hair trigger thing, right? Holding the identity less tightly gives us some space to find some curiosity and engage in a different way. Thank you all so much for showing up today. We'll be back a week from now. And I know that these first two sessions, you're like kind of wondering, where's this all going? It is going somewhere. But we're starting with some curiosity about ourselves. And that's what these first two sessions are really trying to dig in, is generating a little bit of curiosity and awareness about where we're coming from. And wherever that is, it's okay. Even if, like Jim, you don't like doing neighbor talk, it's okay. You're still in the right place. No, but you were just talking loud enough I could hear you. All right. Namaste. Thank you all for coming.